Hello, this is Pick, and this is a bit different from my channel. I'm gonna go over a playthrough I did where all I did was use Botania. Everything in Botania to complete all of its challenges, and mostly no other mods. I'll get to the little bits of other mods I used when they get there. As you can see, I have FTB chunks. Obviously, there is no native chunk loading in Botania, so I had to use some external chunk loader. I also used some other chunk loader mod, but the point here is that we're going to go through everything in the challenge book and explain all of the stuff that I've automated over the course of this adventure. It took me about 190 hours to do all of this, which is quite a long time for a single mod. But yeah, so we're going to get started, and let's look at this Pure Daisy. The Pure Daisy is, you have blocks placed down next to it, and it turns them into living wood, living rock, and a number of other things. And so I've automated it using a whole lot of Quarry things. The Quarry funnels request items from my Quarry network, which is, other locations in storage connected to these Quarry sparks. If I click on the spark, you can see just how wide the Quarry network is. It goes all over. And yeah, it requests these things. And if you have items in an item frame and turn them, it'll change the number. So if I turn it twice from default, it will do 4 items. So it's 1, 2, 4, 8, so on and so forth. And yeah, these random carcasses pick up the blocks and place them down around on these respective lanes. And when the timer goes up, it will turn them into living wood and living rock, and these spreaders fire with bore lenses, and that finally turns it collects all of the living wood and living rock using these hopper hawks. Now, I'm in creative mode to do this tour. If I were in survival, I'd have my white tiara run out of juice, and I don't think you want to watch me, sit on the ground and wait for it to recharge. So it's just much easier to do a tour in creative and occasionally spectator. And yeah, so I guess I could quickly talk about the other mods I have. I have Botania all-in-one tools, I have a all-in-one tool of my TerraSteel tools. Not that complicated or fancy. I have these chunk loaders, and I also have the FTB chunks. And then I have Quark, but it's really just for the quality of life stuff. And then mob grinding utils, which I don't use for the fancy mob grinding stuff. I just used it for Dreadful Dirt, and then that was it. I guess that technically counts as a fancy mob grinding thing, but you get the point. Next on the list is the Cobblestone Generator. So if I go over here, and this is part of a larger TNT producing system, but this is a system that produces cobblestone. Now, it's not on right now because there's too much cobblestone in the chest, so I would have to remove the thing that is blocking the system from working. But if I were to do that, there you go, breaks the cobblestone, stops at this mana pool. Obviously, I'm going to be keeping this on, and a number of my systems aren't going to be working at max efficiency because I've turned them off or something else due to a problem that comes up. Micromanaging logistics with Botania can be a bit painful, especially if you're not very good with it, and I've used Botania before, but not this seriously, so it's a little bit of a learning experience for me. But yeah, I do apologize for the frame rate issues of this mod pack, or not the mod pack, the world. I guess the video, but anyway, I apologize for that because this is a very laggy mod when everything is out in the world like this. There are particles everywhere, and lots of items end up on the ground if you're not careful. I did my best to mitigate lag with control systems, but there's only so well that's going to go. But is what it is. So next, let's look at a flower farm. Here I have a Jaded Amaranthus. If I were to get out my Mana Blaster and shoot that, it will harvest flowers and grow more. And all of them get sent to these barrels underneath the station. I didn't end up hooking them up into storage. Didn't need it. Just refilled my pouch whenever I needed to. I could have done that to automate flowers, but that would just have been a whole lot more corporate stuff, and I got tired of that by the end. So, yeah, I didn't want to waste my time automating petals when I have plenty of petals to work with. Now, most of these challenges have some sort of bonus requirement. In this case, for the Cobblestone Generator, you can also generate smooth stone without a furnace. If you were to use a weight lens on a mana spreader and fire it at a block, now, of course, the system is full, so that's not going to help very much for matters, but if I were to remove this disabling redstone, you'll see that it keeps firing bursts of mana with weight at the stone, and this is like a silk touch, kind of. So it harvests the stone and puts it into the barrel below. Also, sometimes it backs up for some reason. I don't know why this occurs, but if it does back up, that's why I have this hourglass here. I made way too many of these stupid hourglasses all over the map for the automation. That's why the thumbnail is full of all these things that I made way too many of to accomplish many of these automations. It got kind of tiresome crafting them all with a relatively low ease of use, we'll say. To go over crafting, you type things that you want into the Quarry index. So if I wanted 4 iron ingots, I'd have to type that in here. You know, it's not like quite like applied energistics. And if I want to put something away, it has to go into an open spot in one of these many chests. So yeah, that was that. That's how the Quarry request system works. You might be asking though, how do I generate all of my mana? Well, early on, I primarily used a kelp farm. Well, first I tried to use a tree farm and grow it with munch dew and charcoal, but that didn't really work out, so I ended up going with the kelp farm instead. The growth has been boosted thanks to these agricarnations, and yeah, it's harvested using pistons and observers. Every time a kelp goes up to an observer's level, it sees the difference, it activates all the pistons, and all that gets collected into these hoppers. And I have a bunch of smokers processing everything, an exoflame powering the smokers, and that all gets compressed in a crafty crate and sent over to the system over here. Now, most of Botania is locked behind Alfeim, unfortunately, and by most, I mean like a lot of the useful automation things. I've had it since like, I think I got it within the first few, maybe not few, but like 10 hours of playing, I got to the Alfeim Portal. It's just so important to get all of these miscellaneous things, like the Quarry network or crafty crates. They just make everything so much easier, especially because I'm playing on 1.18 and there's no vanilla crafter or anything to work with, even if I wanted to use that. Oh, I have to go back and talk about the mana battery. This is just a whole bunch of mana pools. That's basically it. It's just make a bunch of mana pools, and it says that it wants you to be able to change the input and output, but that doesn't really work with the minecarts. Why would I change where the minecarts are? That doesn't make any sense. I can change the spark positioning manually by saying, oh, the input is now, I move this wherever the recessive spark goes. Woo. But yeah, that's a mana battery, not too complicated. I could have added more pools if I so desired. So if I want to go in order, the next thing on the list is a record farm. This is pretty easy to set up. I used my filtered mob farm, which I will be talking about later. The creepers fall here, the skeletons fall here, and when this is open, they are blocked from falling down any further. And so they are caught. The tiger's eye prevents the creepers from blowing up, and the haystide dream here tells the mobs to fight each other, so the skeletons start shooting the creepers. They might also sometimes shoot each other, but if there's always one skeleton left standing, it doesn't really make a difference. It's not like creepers can heal. You know, witches can heal, but they're not part of the system now, are they? And yeah, this makes the records drop, and they are collected, and there you go, record farm. I apologize for making a fairly boring sugarcane farm. This is very vanilla. I pretty much just have a hopper hock here, and then it's connected to the Quarry system, and that's all the Botania stuff at work here. I would have used bore lenses if they still worked on sugarcane in this version. They used to work like that, but now they don't anymore, so that's a little frustrating, but is what it is. So, yeah, just regular default sugarcane farm with observers and pistons, much like the kelp farm. Now we have a case of the animal farms. To look at each part, I'm going to go over the chickens first. I currently turn the chickens off, but I basically have it summoning eggs and spitting them out in a dispenser. And yeah, that on a timer. That's the chicken farm. And you know, chickens will die and have their meat collected and whatnot. Everybody else has a slightly different setup, but they're all the same, you know, internally. So this is where one of my non-Botania things came into play for automation. Can you find the block that isn't from Botania that's in this setup? Well, it's vertical slabs, believe it or not. So I figured, you know what? Normally people sort mobs by size. I can just adapt that concept and do it with a vertical slab instead of a horizontal one. So these Giulias have a constant push field that push mobs away from it. So naturally, it's pushing all of these sheep in the sheep singularity away from this corner and into this one. The sheep, pigs, and cows, as babies, are small enough to fit in this hole. Wow, that was perfect time for a demonstration. That was not planned. Well, in any case, the sheeps, cows, and pigs get pushed through. Pigs produce extra litters with quark, so I just kind of went with it. But yeah, we have then a polydesiac that when the respective breeding materials drop down, it just feeds the animals that are within its range. So it breeds some sheep, breeds some cows, breeds some pigs, and yeah, they all get pushed down. And when they grow up, they get killed by the Dreadthorn, as there's a Dreadthorn down there which only targets adult mobs. I don't want to break it because, then stuff gets stuck in the hole and whatnot, but yeah, there's a Dreadthorn down there that kills all of the adult animals when they are ready to be, when they're ready to give some meat. Oh, also, I could have done, like, rabbits and horses and stuff, but I really wasn't interested in that. I know, look, that challenge was made before a lot of the farmable mobs were added to Minecraft, but, like, who cares about foxes? Why would I go out of my way to farm foxes? That's useless and boring and painful. So, yeah, I just kind of completely skipped out on that idea. Especially because Botania doesn't have a way to, like, Safari net mobs, or whatever they're called these days, imprisonment tools. The point is, I can't quickly get animals from point A to point B without, like, setting up a water area so that the mobs don't die when I carry them over with leads while flying. Now, to make use of all of these products, I have some smelting setups here. I have an exoflame powering these smokers, and whenever we get meat or what have you from the system, it sends all the products over to these smokers, and they get smelted, or cooked rather, into their products. And if I come over here, I'm using these products in a Gourmaryllis farm, or well, it's a Gourmaryllis setup, where on a 10-second timer, this animated torch turns 90 degrees and activates each of these corpory funnels in order. If you give the Gourmaryllis a variety of foods, it will have an efficiency bonus increase, so I believe this makes around 1.3 times as much for having 4 different foods. Very handy, but it's not the max efficiency. That would be like 8 foods, I think, but I didn't want to do that, so yeah, here you go. I suppose if I really wanted to do that, I could make some really advanced redstone, but it's just not really, I didn't see it as worth doing. I'll get back to the crop farm in a moment, but yeah, that's the Gourmaryllis that was powering this whole thing with mana. Next up, we have an Apothecary refiller. So, whenever I want to make a flower, I need to put in all of the ingredients and add water to the Apothecary to make it craft a flower. Now, there was a bonus challenge for this that said to make it automatically craft flowers, but the Rune Crafter is basically a prerequisite for that, because all of the useful functional flowers require runes anyway. So it's like, do I really want to go out of my way to automate flowers when I don't need to? No. So, yeah, if I were to just, let's just get some ingredients in creative here, right? So we have Rune of Air, some petals, gray petals, some light gray petals, and redstone root. And then we got some seeds. If I drop the seeds in, it crafts it, and you'll notice that it drops it drops the water bucket in, and then it collects the water bucket, puts it in this dispenser, it checks that something's in it, and it takes water out and fills the bucket again. And so whenever this apothecary runs out of water, it dispenses it makes a request for the water bucket, and it sends it into the apothecary, and the cycle continues. This was somewhat useful, I guess, even though you can just carry a rod of the seeds on you. If I had cared to make a fully automated system beyond the scope of what I felt like doing, I guess it would have been okay, but, you know, I made the setup for what I felt like accomplishing, and it works. To go over the Orechid, I have the Entropinnyum, and discuss the Entropinnyum in a bit, but yeah, this fires a TNT into this mana pool, and the Orechid turns stone into ore. And so we have things running on a timer, and it will fire the boar mana lens when the timer is up. So in just a moment, it will it'll only fire the redstone if there's enough mana in the pool, though. I should mention that. So if we sit and wait for the cycle to go again, you'll see it breaks the ore, it fires the stone, and then the Orechid turns it into an ore. And this is kind of filtered, at least. You know, there's some level of filtration. All of the metals, or I should say at least the copper and the iron, come over here and get smelted. I'm full on copper, but like copper is, why do I care about copper? You know, the same as the food setup. Next up, we have a bone meal type farm, and it said not to use a drum of the wild. Well, that's not too big of an issue, because I devised a system that does exactly this. If I wanted to request a quick growth of, oh, I don't know, carrots, right? It's going to send a bunch of carrots into this dispenser. It now detects that there is something in the dispenser, and so it sends out this piston, which allows the clock to run this redstone signal through. This is one of my main types of control network when making these automated systems, is a piston that allows the clock to run. This feels like one of the best ways to do it, because then it doesn't send an extra pulse to the system like it would with some other types of control that I will show off at later points. But if we watch the redstone pulse, you could see that everything runs at a very specific timing to where it plants a carrot, then it puts 3 bone meal on it, and then it puts a water bucket twice so that it picks up the water afterwards and it can plant once more. And everything gets picked up and put into this barrel. Now, I didn't really need a system like this, but the point is just to make the system, not really use it. So this is a functional system, and if I really wanted, I could have elaborated or expanded upon it more. But yeah, this is a nice small farm that harvests these select things. Speaking of farms, we have the whole regular crop farm. It has to grow all of the main crops. I used to have the beetroot in here, but beetroot is kind of useless, so I took it out of the farm. And so now we're just kind of growing carrots, potatoes, and wheat, which I am using for various things. There are a whole bunch of agrocarnations telling things to grow, and these are the planting stuff. Every 5 minutes, this is going to send a signal up here that tells the farm to the crops to be harvested, and then all of that gets picked up underneath here. And also, there is an animated torch down here, which turns on and off the hopper hawk, because obviously it's going to try and plant the carrots and potatoes that are being planted. We don't want it picking them up and stopping the planting from occurring. So yeah, that was my way of managing that. You probably could have also used daffodil mills or something, but this is what I came up with, and it seems to work fine. However, that is not the only crop that it asks us to do. It asks us to do cocoa beans and netherwort. So really quick, if I were to get out a button and force harvest this farm, I disabled it because there were just cocoa beans everywhere because the storage is full. What this does is it pushes up that cocoa bean with a piston, then the Renin Carpus here replants the cocoa beans, and the agrocarnation gets them to grow, and there you have it. It is a functioning cocoa farm. Then we also have netherwort, which functions on a similar but different principle. This is just to that farm. It's just on a much smaller scale. We still have the disabling hopper hawk, we still have the storage. It's not nearly as fast because netherwort takes a really long time to grow, and if I really cared that much, I could add time into the timer on the hourglass. You could just add more sand. But yeah, that's this system. And finally, we have melons and pumpkins. It's a typical piston, melon, and pumpkin farm. and the hourglass is the timer. You just can't see it. It's underneath. I've hidden it. So that covers the crop farms for every desired type of farm that this wanted, and of course all of the outputs are sorted in their own respective chests or barrels. The final growing based farm is a tree farm. Sometimes it clogs up and stops working and I had to restart it manually, but that can be for the better in some cases. Right now we happen to have a large supply of everything, which is very nice, especially because I was going through sticks and wood like crazy, making tons of item frames and chests and hoppers and all this other junk. I also would typically recommend using barrels when working with Botania if you don't worry about storage size. But yeah, what happens here is that the tree grows, and it detects that the tree is grown because the redstone signal can go through the log. That activates the dispenser here to put a sapling onto the pressure plate, and the Renin Carpus plants the birch sapling on the coarse dirt, and this grows, and all the wood gets collected when the mana spreader breaks it. So when this receives a redstone signal from over here, it fires with a boar warp lens, and a boar lens breaks blocks, and a warp lens teleports them through force relays. So this is effectively a ranged block breaker, and we'll get into more uses of that later. But for right now, this is in essence making wood and dropping it underneath the spreader, because that's where it drops the items, near the spreader that was doing the breaking. And then lastly, we have a drum of the canopy, drum of the canopy here to break all of the leaves when everything is done to make sure I keep collecting more saplings. I know, it's a mouthful going through all of this stuff. And if you want me to explain anything better in the comments, I will, but this is more of a showcase than a tutorial. I'm not here to, like, tell you every in and out about this mod. I almost said these mods. Funny, there's only one mod really to talk about. But, yeah. Also, because this is a list of challenges, the point is to figure it out yourself. So yeah, that's why it's more of a showcase than a guide or tutorial. I just didn't see a whole lot of content on this, like on YouTube. I saw a few things for like some of the challenges, but nobody really covered everything. So, you know, I figured why not? Let's talk about literally every challenge that Botania has. Now we get to a very complicated setup. I have a whole bunch of automated potions, every potion in Botania, and currently I have it also hooked up to the automated incense, and I think this created a bit of an issue with the requester. I didn't make it so that it stops requesting uh, incense sticks when it's full. I really should have made that a pulse, but oh well. Instead, we're just gonna disable that and do a quick little tutorial of how this works. So I request either an incense stick or a flask. I would like a flask. And so this Quarry will spit out an an Alfglass flask, and or either or, and the Hopper Hawk picks it up and it drops it onto this brewing stand. Then, if I wanted to make some type of potion, say I wanted to make a speed potion, right? It drops the ingredients on the ground over here. They get picked up and they get dropped onto the automated brewer. Those then go into, they get mana, and it'll take a little while. So, oh, well, it won't take that long if it's a flask. It makes it's picked up again by the Hopper Hawk because there's no filter, and it just gets sent right into the hopper down there instead. And so this is the output. This is the one that we just made. I know I made some other speed potions before, but this is the one that we just made, and it's now available for collection in the chest. This works for all of the types of potions available here. So if I were to just click this one, this green one, it'll drop those items onto the ground, and once again, we make a potion. Yeah, every one of these was made by request, so that tells me that all of them work because they were all made by the very system that has them function in the first place. And once it's done, there you go. You see up there, the mana beam went away, and any second now, This flask of upsurging is in the barrel. So yeah, a potion request system. Very nice. Oh, also, I am using copper pipes from Quark, but only as a stand-in for hoppers, because hoppers are stupid expensive when you have to make like 5 billion of them just to get items around your base. So yeah, copper pipes just for like a little bit of cheapness here and there. I don't use them for anything a hopper can't. So speaking of things that don't like to function properly, we are going to be looking at crafting incense sticks. Now, if I look at the recipe, you'll see that it has a lot of empty spaces. That's where placeholders come in. So this is going to make the recipe sequentially, one item at a time. So first we have the two crafting placeholders. Then we have the ghast tear. See? Two crafting placeholders, ghast tear. And all of that procedurally crafts the item as all the items come in. And if I were to just force this to run once, we can watch all of the items go in here. It'll fill up the grid, and there you go. So yeah, this will craft blank incense sticks. I'm just going to turn off the system for now because it wasn't really working properly. And when I do have those auto-crafted incense sticks, it will send one over here when it burns up. And yeah, that will light the fire on the stick, and it gives me a speed 2 effect when I'm in 30 block range of it. So yeah, this is automatically lighting incense sticks within the area of the base. Obviously, I could have added more, but that sounds like a pain. And now I might as well hook up the redstone once more so that it, has a resupply of incense and works automatically. Okay, next up is the Entropinnyum. So the Entropinnyum here is a flower that generates mana from TNT. Now, you can just use a dispenser to deploy TNT. I don't know why I didn't think to do that before, but I didn't. Oh, and looks like everything is backed up again. My favorite. I'm just going to turn it off forever. So what's supposed to happen here is that all of the ingredients for the system come in one at a time, and it loads the entire recipe into the hopper, and then finally into the crafty crate. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be working right now because there are many times where it just decides, today I will stop running and clog up everything in the system. And as lovely as that is, it's very frustrating when you have to make the entire system function properly because, oh no, the stupid hopper and crafty crate system clogged again. Anyway, if I completely flush the system out, I can now see what it's like when it actually works. So we're just going to take a couple of red sand and we're going to put it back in, and hopefully it will work properly this time. But we want to make sure that the dropper is, completely empty. And so yeah, all of the ingredients, once this runs, just give it another few seconds for it to pulse again. All of the items are going to slowly enter the crafty crate one at a time and the desired recipe. I think it's something when the storage fills, it just decides to stop working. Something gets screwy. I don't know exactly why. And testing things with timers that are anywhere from 20 seconds to 10 minutes is very frustrating. But yeah, assuming that the TNT is properly made, let's just spawn in a stack of TNT to make this work. The TNT is going to drop something on the ground, and it'll place it on this redstone block and explode it. I didn't actually have to do this because dispensers naturally activate TNT normally, but did what I had to. Or I guess that was just what I came up with the first time. And yeah, I have all these control systems. I even have a gunpowder stash control system. So yeah. And all of that gets sent into these mana things, and it gets sent off. Oh, handy. Okay, the next one is fun. This is the Shulk-me-not. So this is a generating flower that makes energy from when a mob is hit by a shulker shot. So here I have this life imbuer, and it's going to spawn a zombie when I'm not nearby every time it gets hit by a mana burst. Now, if I'm standing right next to it, it's going to spawn them anyway. But I also have a control system to turn it off if a zombie is present. Why? Because we need to now run this with the cocoon of Caprice. I have those automated in crafting over here. And we'll talk more about the mob farm in a minute, but yeah, it places the cocoon down, and it drops some chorus fruit into the cocoon, and over time this is going to spawn a shulker. So, quickly to talk about the chorus fruit farm, if I were to fire this explosion at this obsidian block, it's going to blow up the chorus flowers so that I have more chorus flowers to harvest. Okay, that time they were out of range, but the point is that normally the chorus flowers would be in range again because it's on a set timer, and the timer would go before the chorus gets a chance to get that high. But yeah, it blows up, it harvests the chorus flowers because explosions drop flowers and regular breaking doesn't, and it also accounts for the weird configurations that the chorus might be in. It picks up the flower, and then it replants a new one with this Brandon Carpus over here. And finally, it pushes this piston to make sure that all the whatever is left on top of the end stone gets broken, because it can't survive without a block supporting it underneath, like most crops. So yeah, whenever this gets pushed out, the chorus stem on top of it breaks, and make sure that all of the chorus fruit is harvested and collected into this. So if we go back over to here, we'll see that the cocoon is almost ready to hatch. Is that the right word? I don't know. Once it's done, which will happen in just a moment, you can also use Ghast Tear to make it go faster, but like, why would I do that when I'm just trying to have something be automated? And Ghast Tears are something that you pretty much cannot automate, despite what mod packs might try to make you do. So any second now, when this cocoon finally hatches, makes the shulker fires at the zombie, thanks to the Hayside Dream, and the Shulk-me-not collects all of the mana. It fills it up, it's like a tenth of a mana pool, which is absolute ton. I should also mention that this Medumone is keeping the zombie still, that's why it doesn't move, and when there is finally time for another zombie to come along, it gets sent over into the pressure plate, and it turns the spawner back off. Quite a fun system. This was a fun one even if I didn't hook up the mana to anything actually important. Oh, I also forgot to mention these luminizers. This is a luminizer launcher. Whenever it receives a redstone signal, it sends entities on top of the plate up through the luminizers and moves them over to here. So if you want some type of more controlled mob transport for like automation, this is how you would do that. So since we're on the topic of mob farms and related, let's talk about this mana railway that powers the mob farm. So I have a pump over here, and it fills up this minecart, and when the minecart is full, the comparator tells it to go. And it sends it at a very important set speed all the way over to this detector. If this pool did not have enough mana in it, and I will break it to demonstrate how that works, because I don't really care about the mana supply anymore, all I have to do is send this minecart over, and slowly it will make its way over, because I have a very limited number of powered rails, but it will run over it, detect that there's mana in the cart, or that there's a cart there, and determine if the system needs mana. If it needs mana, what it will do is stop it and allow mana to be pumped out. And the mana minecart is going to go through the rest of the system, and when it's done, it should come all the way back up here. But yeah, we have another stop here. I'll talk about what's there in a moment. If I were to go into Spectator, I would come down here and see that it dropped off all of the mana. Now, because there's not a whole lot of mana down here, it actually broke a little bit, so I'm going to have to manually send the cart back. But otherwise, this is powering a mob farm. This is where the dreadful dirt is being used. it spawns illegal slimes because this isn't a slime chunk. So what I ended up having to do was, I ended up having to make a separate slime, production method, you know, so that it's Botania only. But, yeah, I have, all this stuff hooked up to Quarry, and then I even have this crafting bone meal down here. And it completely works as intended, as you would expect. Isn't that wonderful? Oh, also I have a Vinculotus, in case there are any Endermen that think they're being clever by trying to teleport away. But, yeah, that is the mob farm that produces most of my drops. I guess since we're here, let's talk about the Fell Pumpkin. This uses all of those mob drops to create Fell Pumpkins. Pretty straightforward. Though, sometimes the system doesn't work, and you end up with this weird nonsense. Yeah, I hate dealing with this. I really do. But, yeah, this is what we typically do for auto-crafting things. You kind of saw it with the TNT. Oh, because a pipe broke. Yeah, the pipes can break, but I mean, that's not really the problem. It backed up before the pipe broke. But, yeah, you have to alternate the spots on which, these corporeal funnels are placed. Otherwise, they're going to just have items go in the wrong order, and all of these crafting recipes are very order sensitive. So you have to, you know, do things correctly, or you don't get the product like you're seeing here and there. I promise you, some of these setups do work. It's just that these ones decided to stop working because it likes to torment me, obviously. I guess the final thing in regard to mob farms, well, okay, but there are two things. We have the spawning tower, which we'll get to, and the blaze farm. The blaze farm here, it summons 2 iron bars separately, and then one fell pumpkin. So the iron bars, I guess I could have combined these actually, but whatever. The iron bars get placed down on top of the deep slate, and then another iron bar gets placed on top of the first bar, and then on a delay, this pumpkin comes out, and it places it on top. So if I were to go into creative mode real quick and put down 2 iron bars and 1 fell pumpkin, it will spawn a special type of blaze that only drops blaze powder, and you need blaze powder for sparks, so it's a very important ingredient. It's picked up, put into the system here, and that's that. Now, once again, talking about this sorted mob farm. So, here we have a bunch of chambers. We have, in order, we have the spider chamber, the creeper chamber, the enderman chamber, which had a vinculotus down there before, but I kind of just ignored it because whatever. Eventually, it was, you know, I moved to that mob farm down there. And then we have the skeleton and the zombie. So each mob is filtered in a different way based on some property of the mob. Also, when I was running this with actual speed, this singular dreadful dirt, was doing a lot of work for making records and such. So yeah, the undead mobs sink. So the skeletons just go down this tube because they are too big, but the zombies are small enough to fit over these campfires. And let me just give me some night vision here. The campfires here prevent these skeletons from getting over, so the zombies fall into this pit, the skeletons fall into that one, and then all the living mobs continue along this way, that being spiders, creepers, and witches. The witches get caught here. They don't have a chamber. Also, Enderman would obviously teleport because of the water. But, yeah. The witches get stuck here. I didn't make a killing chamber for them, but they are technically filtered. The creepers fall down the single block hole, and the spiders fall down the big hole. And I also had some Medumones running to paralyze the spiders because they were getting caught on the walls, but, you know, I didn't end up fully following through with that. But yeah, this was the filtered mob farm, and again, it's hooked up to the old High Side Dream and Tiger's Eye here. Flip the lever, record farm is active. Quite a simple setup, really, once you have it all working. Of course, you know, everything likes to break, but that's how it is. And yeah, the reason I use the Dreadful Dirt is because I hate dealing with vanilla spawn caps. The spawn caps were the end of me. If I look over in yonder of here, this was like my attempt at making a slime farm. It was not very fruitful. Of course, I say that as a slime is right here to taunt me. But, yeah, This was not a great farm. I tried using an Arslimus. It just didn't work. I'm used to doing the slime farms in Skyblocks. I've never done one in a survival world before. And all of these stupid, or mob farms in general, sorry, I don't really make vanilla stuff in modded. I had to light up every last bit of these caves to stop the spawning room from being taken up. And even then I missed some bits, because it's impossible to see the stupid things. It was so painful, especially when there's water here, so you don't know exactly what is and isn't filled in. It was so painful. Everything just kept having spawn after spawn, ruining all of my mob farm production. Yeah, I would not recommend having to deal with all that. It was very painful, and that is why I ended up installing mob grinding utils, just for the dreadful dirt and nothing else. Okay, so let's talk about the Spectrolus. First, I have a massive sheep farm for every color of wool, and all of that gets sent into these chests. Then, we have all that in storage, and we have all of these Quarry funnels in order of wool data value for my old Minecraft players that know that they were, we have the whole mob order, or wool order, sorry. And yeah, I don't know if they still go by this order these days, but this just preserved the old one. And if you play to complete the monument map from back in the day, you would remember this order. Very familiar order for those victory monuments. But what happens is I have a Daffo mill over here. And we can see the Daffo mill right here. It's pushing all of the wool into the Spectrolus. And because distance is already separating them, I don't have to worry about them going in the wrong order. See, it goes through everything. Lovely. Before I had them going into this spreader, and so I wasn't wasting any mana from the wool, but I guess now I am being a little wasteful sending it over here with this regular spreader. But yeah, the point being is this is a fine setup for the automated Spectrolus. I was originally using it to power the Orechid, and conveniently, one of every wool is enough to run the Orechid. But it's not very fast when you're only making wool so quickly, especially when you have so many. This was like 3 sheep of each color, and it still wasn't enough to keep up. It was crazy, especially because of the grass. I turned up the tick speed just a little bit to make things grow a little faster, so that I wasn't like sitting here forever. Now we have the Kekimurus Automation, and you can see here that I have every ingredient for the cake laid out. We've kind of already gone over how the crafty crates work. So milk is being made from this cow, and this cow is getting milked from this drum of the gathering when buckets are dropped on it, and this is hit. This just keeps hitting the drum if I need milk, and this collects all of the milk. And then all of the milk and stuff gets sent into the crafty crate, and it crafts cakes. And then I have this over by the Rune Crafter here. The cake gets spit out whenever this is low on mana, and the Kekimurus picks up the cake, because it places the cake down, and it picks up each slice by slice and eats it. Very nice to have for late game mana, though it doesn't really beat the cake reactors of the days of old. If you remember Thaumcraft, and how there was an add-on that had like air fire that turned all everything into sandstone and cake. Oh, it was crazy. They were like cake reactors. What an amazing feature that was. Before I get into the 2 most complicated things that I automated in this mod, let's go over some of the minor things that I didn't really touch. So first we have pixie dust automation. I could have automated other things through the Alfeim Portal, but I didn't want to do anything else. So, I have mana pearls coming in here. When I run low on pixie dust, it sends them in here. The pixie dust gets picked up, turns itself off. Pretty simple. I have a Ghast over here, and a system that automates Ender Air. And so, this is how I automated Ghast Tears. Now, I turned the system off because it worked. It actually worked perfectly until I filled up and turned the system off, to save on performance. And that was a very bad idea, because it just decided, ooh, now I'm going to decide to break just because. Lol. So, what's supposed to happen is this Quarry funnel summons some stone, and the stone gets placed by random carpus onto where these endstone are currently placed. The Ender Air bottle comes out from this dispenser, and when Ender Air is fired at stone, it turns it into End Stone. This End Stone then turns into Cobbled Deep Slate because the Pure Daisy gets pushed up into its its contact, its operating range. And what very strictly on a very strict timer, when this transforms into Cobbled Deep Slate for like 2 seconds, there is a cloud of Ender Air. And you can capture those with bottles. Now, there are no bottles here, because wouldn't you know it, the crafting system likes to break every freaking time. It's so freaking frustrating. I hate it. But, yeah. So, this makes Ender Air, and then that gets requested and sent over into this chest, which, unfortunately seems to have, finally run dry. But if we do pretend that, we had more Ender Air, it would, fire a bottle at this ghast in this cage. I did spawn this ghast in. I did not feel like moving a ghast the normal way. That just sounds like pain. And, yeah. When you fire it, it has a chance of dropping a ghast here. This does not damage the ghast. It just does a little red flash to let you know it worked. And, yeah, you're basically using tear gas on the ghast here to make it cry, to make it drop ghast tears. And that's Ghast Tears Automated. I use those mainly for the incense sticks, or other potions. But yeah, that's automated Ghast Tears. Was fun to do though. When it works properly. I don't know why it just stopped working, but I guess I'll finish with the Rune Crafter. So first, let's talk about the Quarry. So this Quarry, it's not perfect. It clogs up sometimes, and I don't know why. It's frustrating, wouldn't you know? But yeah, this is a code-based quarry, actually. I coded this. Yeah, using a bunch of named paper. And each paper corresponds to some function of the quarry and a given list of set instructions. So, if I really wanted to, I could load some paper in here and run it, and I will in just a moment. Don't worry. But whenever a paper reaches this end dropper, it gets detected by this Corpory subnetwork. You can dye sparks to give them their own little subnetwork compared to the the big network that connects literally everything. And yeah, this only detects if stuff is inside that hopper. And the comparator for the respective thing will send a mana pulse out, and that gets connected to one of these mana detectors. These mana detectors are then capable of receiving and emitting that redstone signal to run the proper subroutine that I want it to run. And so each of these is hooked up to a different piston in this matrix. And of course we have the same detection system over here, and that's hooked up to this dropper, which flushes the instruction when it's done running. But yeah, each of these is hooked up to a different piston, or in the for the case of the last one, this pulse mana spreader. And it pushes the piston around, the force relay around that's connected to that deep slate marker block until it, does the desired operation. Now, if I just wanted it to fire, what I would do is I just ran this, right? It puts the fire in here. It says fire, and so it sends 2 fire operations through the system. And so it will fire the mana into the force relay, and that fires a mana burst from the marker block. Now, if it moves in a cardinal direction, or up or down, it will instead try to reorganize the force relay so that it pushes the respective block in the direction I want it to go. So if you watch the block here, in just a moment, it's going to push the it pushed the marker block over. I know it's a little hard to see, but yeah. Sticky pistons push the force relay without pushing that block. Regular pistons do push the block, and then the drops get sent over to the mana spreader and picked up into the this array of barrels. So yeah, if we we can kind of see that the quarry runs on its own now. It does eventually, wouldn't you know it, break sometimes, so it's not perfect, hence why I'd only mind a small area. But yeah, the basics of this is that I've put a whole list of instructions that goes one at a time, and every direction happens every 30 seconds. So, yeah, it's a very slow quarry, to say the least. It's, not exactly great, but yeah, it runs, in a little zigzag snake pattern. It'll go around here and then here and back to the start and then down a bit. And, it'll keep breaking blocks as it goes down. It works on paper in theory, and you can see that it did pretty much work in this column. I just made a new column that's higher up, so it's easier to tell what's going on. But I know this was a lot. You know, each of these mana detectors is hooked up to one of these things. It was very complicated, took a lot of time to make, and even then it only kind of works, unfortunately. But it is what it is, I suppose. It also doesn't like when two instructions of the same, you know, the instruction is the same for two commands, because then sometimes it doesn't update in the detectors, and it's a whole mess. It's an automated quarry, though, at least enough for me to say I want to call it one. I'm sure other people have better designs out there that, you know, actually function, but yeah, this is what I came up with. Okay, finally we have a lightning round of rune crafting. So off the bat we can see that we can request any rune we want to be made. So if I want a rune of earth, it's going to send over all of the ingredients. Unlike all the other stupid crafty crate things, this one doesn't break. And when it finishes, it pushes the runes off, because sometimes if it doesn't, the runic altar will take priority over the hopper hawk, and it'll put the runes into the runic altar inventory, which is kind of annoying. But yeah, this piston is just here to make sure that any drops get pushed off to the side and picked up by the hopper hawk. And yeah, you can see that we have many, many runes here. I can request whatever I want. If I want to request a rune of spring, it'll go ahead and craft the rune of spring. You know, with all the anime references in Botania, I haven't actually made any in this video. The elements, like I guess from Avatar or something, you know, it's like debatably not anime, and we're not here to talk about that. The seasons, like, they fought the seasons in Undead Unluck, right? That's an anime. And we have the Seven Deadly Sins, Full Metal Alchemist, and then Mana. I guess that technically counts. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Then also there's hidden underneath here. I have another secret extra mana detector thing that activates the living rock. So that one is there because it will activate no matter which button I press, and it sends the living rock with a rune down to the bottom. And yeah. Pretty nice to have this, but now it's time for a lightning round of all the ingredients. So, starting with the rune of water, we have the sugarcane farm, which you've seen, bone meal, which you've also kind of seen, and fishing rods, which, there you go. This is the fishing rod crafter. This is actually the last thing I did, and yeah, it crafts fishing rods for the rune crafting setup. Let's see, next up we have earth. Earth is, you've seen stone. Blocks of coal are made from coal from the orchid, and that coal comes from these crafters over here. We also have snow blocks being made for winter runes. So yeah, and then brown mushrooms. So this was a fun farm. So if I get some bone meal, and I were to force this mushroom to grow, it will detect that there is a mushroom there, much like the tree farm, and then it fires all of these bore lenses to ensure that all of the mushrooms break. It gets picked up and put in this chest, and then it's off right now because the mushroom stockpile is high enough. Alright, next up, we have the Rune of Fire. We've already seen gunpowder and netherwort, and also, oh yeah, I should talk about these basic ingredients, huh? Yeah, I have mana powder, mana diamond, and mana steel being made over here. They're all just systems on a timer with some type of turn-off system if the stock is too high. And I also have the same thing over here for mana string and mana pearls. So yeah, that's them. And then for the netherrack for nether brick and a bunch of other things, so you have snow and leaves. They're produced via a conjuration catalyst. When you dump one item in, you get 2 back for the cost of mana. And this gets sent over to the smelting array to make nether brick. And then I also have a cactus over here for root for slime balls, because we have an alchemy catalyst down here that turns the cactus into slime balls. And yeah, so if we come back over here, then we have air. I have a crafter set up for turning wool into carpets, and then chickens makes the chicken farm makes feathers, and spiders from the mob farm make string. Might as well keep going through the whole lot of them. So we have winter up next, where we have snow blocks, wool, cake, and then the runes. The runes aren't consumed, so we've already had those established on the first rung. The cakes are made the same way from the Kekimurus farm. And then we have the wool and the snow. The snow is made, you kind of saw it with the conjuration catalyst, and the wool's made from the sheep farm. And now we have spring, saplings from the tree farm, wheat from the crop farm. Not much to say about that. Melons from the melon farm, sand from the sand generator, and slime balls from cactus, which is being transmuted. I guess I can also show off the cactus over here. Just a small cactus farm. Not that, doesn't need very high throughput. And we have autumn, spider eyes from the mob farm, leaves from the conjuration catalyst, because you can't silk touch leaves easily. I could use a weight lens, but that would be the most painful, tedious setup ever. And finally, we have mana diamonds and all this for all the other runes. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. This was a big world. It took me a long time to make all of this stuff, of course. So, thank you for watching and bearing with me through this slightly laggy, impromptu world exploration, world tour. So yeah, thanks for watching. This has been Pick. I'm glad to have seen you, and I hope to see you again.